Hello, this is Lisa with Unexplained America, and today I have Cody and Elaine with me from Cryptids across the Atlas, and we're talking about the Mothman of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, specifically, and maybe, I don't know, a lot more. But thank you guys so much for being here with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's always
Again,
an
yeah.
honor. Yeah,
I know you guys were so great to do the Gal Row with me, and that's been a minute. I think
it has.
I know, and that was so much fun. So, of course, Cody and Elaine are they talk cryptids, and I have all of their information in the show notes, so definitely check out all of their information. But yes, I love talking cryptids with cryptid people.
And we like talking
Yes.
cryptids, so
So yay, so this works. So just a little business. Please follow me on all the social medias. I do have a new Facebook page set up apart from the Facebook group. So please go follow that and you can go to unexplainedamerica.com and connect with me and buy merch or whatever you want to do. So yay. So guys, it's early. I'm not a morning person. We talked about that,
yeah,
but
we're not either. It's fine.
So I have my coffee.
yeah, you got your coffee and they look cute this morning. We are doing this via Zoom and I have iced coffee and I'm so proud that I made it myself. I normally don't. So so I'm so thrilled. So I wanted to talk about the Mothman and kind of I know you guys have been to Point Pleasant.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
a couple times actually. Yeah.
That's so awesome. So that is definitely on my list. I've been to West Virginia, but not to Point Pleasant. So I did want to kind of talk about the beginning, just maybe for people that are like me that don't know a lot about the story or the origin or anything about it. So
hmm
so yeah, so what I found, and I want you to chime in and correct, please. Um,
we'll do our best.
Yeah.
please, please correct me. So what I found was kind of the quote unquote beginning this Point Pleasant, West Virginia is like it's a small town in West
Yes.
Virginia,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's on the Ohio River. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So it looks like it's almost to Ohio, like the border. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yeah. So if you cross the bridge, one of the bridges, there's quite a few bridges in town actually, but if you cross over them, you actually go into Ohio. So the river is the dividing line between West Virginia and Ohio.
Okay, that's so interesting to me. So this is kind of like geographically like a tip of the western part of West Virginia to me. Is
Correct.
that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in this town it looks like I don't know, we're going to go back to origins, but it looks like they only have about 4,500 people ish.
On a good day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Like it's a
I feel like
town.
that's I feel like that's true every day except for the Mothman Festival.
Yeah, then it's a lot. But
Yes.
yes, it's a very small town, very quaint. It's actually very picturesque. So
Oh.
there's a couple of different ways to get into town, but they have like a new highway going into town now, which is really nice. I mean, like you crest the ridge and you look down, and it's very picturesque, kind of what I would imagine I know it's West Virginia, but very New Englandy kind of feel to it. You
Yeah.
look over and you have the river and you have all the bridges, and it's a very cute town. It's a very old town. You know, you can tell that there's been a lot of. I mean, obviously it was big with like coal,
Mhm.
everything West Virginia, like that's pretty much its economy, right? Is coal. It's very interesting because West Virginia in and of itself it's such a strange state,
It is
right?
very weird.
I mean, it's just all hills, and here in Arkansas our hills are like it's a hill with a
Mhm.
field and a hill, and like they're rolling and pretty, and their hills are just like up down up down up down. And so, like, the only thing that makes them not mountains, yeah, the only thing that makes them not mountains is they're not as pointy. Like, and so the valleys are dark and creepy, and yeah. So, but West Virginia, or excuse me, West Virginia, but specifically Point Pleasant kind of falls out of one of those, and there's actually a decent little area, so it's really pretty. It's kind of surrounded by hills and the river and all that.
That's
So,
that's so interesting. The pictures look amazing and it looks like they have like a really cute downtown presence.
Yeah, they
So,
yeah, they do,
Um,
all because of the Mothman.
Yes.
come on.
But yeah, that's why the downtown's cute.
I
But,
will
like,
say it is a very cute area. However, there is something like I don't know how to explain it. It's like energetically, like there is like a very weird, like ominous presence about the town. And I don't know if that's because of the Mothman or like we've kind of created that like idea that we have whenever we go there. We're like, okay, weird things happen, so it automatically feels weird. But like driving in and like driving around that area just feels very weird.
Well,
that is so cool.
Military stuff that's happened there, we'll probably get into.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I can't wait. Because it seems like I don't know, it has such a history and definitely creepy. Like, definitely creepy on so many levels. So from what I found, as far as like the newspapers or the starting point of this quote unquote, Mothman happened on, it looked like the early morning hours on a Wednesday, which was this was interesting to me. And I guess it would have been like November 16th, but it said that there were like 2 couples driving around. So there were 4 and they're young couples, but this is like after midnight. So it's like technically Wednesday morning and in November, and they're driving around, and it's just interesting. But their names are, it looked like Steve Mallette and his wife, Mary.
Mary, yep.
And then another couple, a Roger and Linda Scarberry.
Yes. Oh, go on. I'll chime in. Go ahead.
So it looked like they, were just out and about, driving around. It just said towards the quote unquote TNT area of Point Pleasant, which of course we'll get into even what that means. But they come across, like they're driving, and then they see to the side of the road like a pair of just glowing red eyes. And they all see it. They said that the eyes were, this was interesting, 6 inches apart. And then they say this Mallette guy, he says that he's a hunter. He's very familiar. Of course, this is like, rural. These people were farmers and hunters and used to like, I don't know, creatures, animals, They talk about how, they're driving and then they actually see the creature, and it's like a man, but with and they say 6 feet tall. So, and wings protruding out the back, kind of can't really tell the face, no arms, but a wingspan. They said it kind of looked like an angel. That was interesting too. So, but they're seeing this creature and the eyes are red. They're freaking out. The wingspan's like 10 feet big, they're just big. And I guess the women are very scared. I mean, this whole thing sounds scary. It's not, like you said, it's already really creepy in this area. And then the women start crying, of course. I think, who was driving? Was Steve driving? Do you know?
I believe, if I remember right. Okay. I think Roger was
driving,
but I could be wrong on that.
Gotcha. Because it really
read the paper articles, and I don't recall off the top of my head which one it was. But
and it says that they're freaking out, and so they're out of town. So then it says they get up to 100 miles per hour with this creature following them, and they're just heading towards town. And then it sounds like they go straight to the sheriff's office to report. I mean, they're scared. They're really scared. Yes. One question I had in this incident, and does that sound about? Do you add anything else to that?
Yeah. So first of all, that's not actually the first sighting. That is the misconception of the first sighting.
Yes.
So we can circle back. But we can,
because it sounds like the first or some other sightings kind of happened once this broke the news, though. Correct? Like it's kind of like from what I can see.
So there was actually a sighting on the 12th, so just a few days prior, where there was a group of grave diggers. So I've read that there's 5 grave diggers. The one that most people kind of cite as Kenneth Duncan is the one that came forward.
Yeah.
This was in Clendenden, West Virginia, which is like a 30-minute drive from Point Pleasant, so fun story there. So basically what happened, I'll give you what happened, and then I'll kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So they're out digging this grave. This graveyard's kind of on a hill, just a small kind of pocket graveyard. There's a wood line at the back on the top of the hill. It flows downhill toward a church, and in the middle of the graveyard, there's one very large tree. If I recall, this was sometime around evening. It wasn't dark yet. And so they look up, they hear something, they look up into this tree, and there is a man in the tree. And they all kind of stop what they're doing as they're digging this grave. So you can imagine like the trees to the right, they're kind of midway up the hill hill, I'd say like a third up the hill to the left, trees to the right, the wood line is back behind that. They hear something, if I recall, come out of the tree line and into that tree. They see a large man with red eyes standing in the tree. And they actually thought someone was playing a prank on them. And then it hovered up and shot over their head and flew off toward toward Point Pleasant. Mm-hmm. And so they, of course, go back. They tell their friends. I believe there was a police report filed for this, but nothing really, or actually, no, there wasn't. He had went back and told his family and everyone, like, this was kind of like the talk of the town at the point, right? Like, he comes back, he's like, this is what happened. I don't know, man, it was crazy. Yeah. 3, I guess technically 4 days later, the story breaks that there's this Mothman type thing seen in Point Pleasant, and that's whenever he comes forward and he was like, trembling, like, hey, I don't even know how to describe what we just saw a few days ago, but this was actually seen in the graveyard. Now, fun story, a little bit like a fun story about that. Most people that go and visit that graveyard go to the wrong graveyard. Yeah. So the public info on that is not correct.
We actually had to get the coordinates for the right place while we were there.
So when we were in West Virginia, we met up with the guys from Wild and Weird West Virginia, which is they're another podcast there. Their headquarters is actually based above the Mothman Museum. And so they're really cool office, very cool office. They're really cool guys. And they gave us the coordinates to the actual grave, which
like on a little sticky note, like I had to put it in my backpack.
Yeah. Like top secret info. And to get to this graveyard, you would have never found it, outside, because you had to kind of like wind through this valley, cross a creek, go up this 1-lane hill that's like, straight vertical. It felt like driving up it. And turn this dark blind corner where you have to honk the horn because it's 1 lane and you don't know if anyone's coming around it. And then you have to pull off through a neighborhood down a gravel road to find this old church to find the graveyard. So the one you pass on there's like a kind of a highway that comes into town, and it's called Clendenden Cemetery. Everyone thinks that's the one it's at. It's not. But anyway, so that's how, like, I've literally stood there at the grave and looked up, and I'm like, this is a massive tree. Someone absolutely could stand up in the top of this and would be obscured by the limbs. And
we took video of the area too.
Yeah, so it was a very interesting, tucked away, very rural, like not in the middle of town kind of place. So, that was the first sighting, and then you had the next one.
Yes, so it was interesting because as far as like the newspaper articles go, it was like the Mallette and the Scarberry came out, and then the other reports came out afterwards. But I did think, okay, so on that, the Kenneth Duncan, the grave digger, yes. I thought it was funny. So I did find not fun. This is not funny. I did find something that he was actually digging. It said that he was digging his brother-in-law's grave.
That sounds right. I believe it was
and that
was it John Duncan? Does that sound right?
It didn't say, it literally just said he was digging his brother-in-law's grave when they saw the quote unquote brown human being creature. So I thought that was interesting. And it did say there were 4 others. So yes, 5 of them total that were there digging this grave and seeing this situation. So I can't imagine. That would just be so creepy. Obvious. Well, yes. If they're grave diggers, they're probably used to digging graves. Like that would be no big deal.
Probably not seeing things up in the tree.
But I'm thinking, like, from my point of view, I'm like, the whole thing is creepy.
Yes.
But for them, I guess, bird-like creature. But I thought it was interesting, when the kids reported what they saw, of course, they're scared. And when they're reporting to the newspapers, Mary literally says, we understand people are laughing at us, but we wouldn't make up all this to make us look like fools. So I thought that was really interesting, because I'm sure a lot of people were like, you're crazy, you're whatever. And then at least like right after this happens, and I mean, this is posted in the paper pretty quickly, that they do have the Kenneth Duncan story, but then they also have I want you to chime in on this, but another man came forward, and I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but he was in Salem, and that it said that I took that as being in Salem, Massachusetts, because there was something that said that he was in the area. It was about 90 miles from Point Pleasant, and he was in the area where, they had the witch trials or whatever. So yeah. I'm guessing that's correct. I don't know. But
Maybe. I don't know how far. That seems further than 90 miles to me.
Yeah.
I know it, and I don't.
There is a Salem, West Virginia.
There is a Salem, West Virginia. So
Yes.
yeah, because that was really interesting. I don't know if that was just. I mean, this says Salem, as far as the newspaper article, but his name was. Is it Newell?
Newell. Yeah.
Newell. Does that sound right? Okay,
Yeah.
Partridge. And he had the situation with his dog, Bandit. He had a German Shepherd, and he made sure to express that the dog was $350. I thought that was interesting.
Yes.
He was like,
Really specific.
Well, that is a pretty pricey dog for that time, okay? Like, that's a bougie dog.
Yes, he made sure. He was like, this dog.
Yes.
But evidently he was in his home. And he says that this, because he came forward, I guess, after the kid's situation, but his incident happened at 10:30 on the night, like right before the kids' encounter. So it was like the Tuesday, the 15th or whatever. And he just mentioned that he's watching television and that his reception was interrupted by like a generator noise. And it was so severe that he had to kind of turn his TV set off.
Yes.
And then almost immediately his dog started to, howl like terribly. And he finally like let, the dog out, like he was howling, wanting to get out of the house, and he let him go and he just ran. And this is when I guess Noel happened to see, he just said he saw 2 red reflections. I guess when he had a flashlight, he was trying to like trail where his dog was going. And so he encounters this. And then, of course, his dog is gone.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
his dog was Bandit. And Bandit, after the sound, ran to the door and started like scratching and howling like he was trying to, if I recall, like he said, it was almost like he was trying to run away from something or maybe like be in pursuit of something, one of the two. But he was basically just absolutely freaking out. So he let him out, and he said he recalled seeing, his exact quote was, "I saw 2 red circles in the dark. Bandit took off after them and never barked again. He just vanished into the night." So,
which this kind of reminds me, I know it's not Mothman, but it is West Virginia, the Flatwoods monster, where they saw this weird thing at night too that had glowing eyes, and there was also a dog that was terrified of it. So there obviously is some really weird stuff going on in West Virginia, and that could be the Mothman, or it could be
Flatwoods is like an hour from
like it's not that far.
So okay, so the Flatwoods monster, I haven't heard of this monster.
Okay, so very quickly, Flatwoods, West Virginia, there was a very similar time frame. I actually think it was a little bit before, I don't remember the time frame exactly. It's in that same general time frame. Basically, these kids are outside. They see what looks like a spaceship fall out of the sky and crash, and they see a fiery explosion on the hilltop in the woods. So their mother, and it's like a brother, it's like 2 brothers, some random dude, and their mom, and then a dog. Go looking for this thing. They march out of the woods. They find this area where something had crashed. The earth is like scorched and charred, and they see this metallic woman who is wearing almost like a green veil with like a red. They describe it as like a spade-shaped face. And it looks like it has metal hands for claws, and it turns and looks at them and emits this high-pitched sound and actually starts spewing this like obnoxious black tarry oil gaseous gas.
Yeah, they end up passing out from it.
Well, not passing out, they run back.
Yeah.
And they're having like respiratory issues and all of that. One of them actually has respiratory issues for weeks following this. So, and the dog, of course, took off running as well because it saw it immediately and panicked and ran off. So this happened not very far from where all the Mothman stuff happened.
What is crazy to me is that sometimes, and we'll get into like the appearance with the other Mothman encounters, but some people say that the Mothman has like an owl-like face, and they have also said that about the Flatwoods monster. And I've also heard like that they're actually boyfriend and girlfriend, so that is a hot take. But I just thought that was very interesting that they have, like, even though they are not like appearance wise, they don't look the same, that they both have similar appearances, like that of an owl.
Yeah, that is interesting. So I wonder if they could get like a Love Island for the What is it? The Flatwoods?
Say Flatwoods Monster. Yeah, I mean, there's an entire like gift shop and everything for that cryptid as well. So
That is so cool.
yeah,
That is really interesting. So, it's interesting to me because I did find that you have these instances, these 3 different instances, but all, pretty much describing similar thing, 6 to 7 feet. I thought the angel description was interesting. And of course, like brown, some say brown, some say gray, but
yeah, it depends.
As far as like looks, but it was interesting that and I didn't even think about this, but the name Mothman, and it looks like they called it Mammoth Mothman in some cases there in the newspapers, but I didn't realize that like the Batman. So, at the time, the Batman show and such and comic was really popular, and evidently there was this Mothman in the comic book, the Batman comic book, and so that was interesting.
Fun story about that. So they were actually going to call it Batman. It had originally begun being referred to as the West Virginia Batman, but because of the comics, they changed the name. Matching the eyes in the description of being at night, they actually shifted it to Mothman because they didn't want it to be confused with the fictional comics that were so popular at the time.
Yeah.
So
and probably copyright. I don't know if they thought about that.
I don't know.
I don't know if that's a thing in 66. You think? I don't know.
I don't know. But it's funny you say the angel thing. So a lot of people describe it as kind of that not having a definitive head versus torso. And a lot of people kind of describe it as if the eyes are in its chest, right? Because there's no head. It's just kind of a domed over shape with these large protruding wings, with large eyes kind of in the chest, which also kind of leads to the theory of why some people think it's a barred owl, because owls, they do have a neck. If you've ever seen an owl stretch out its neck, it's kind of creepy, but normally their heads are nice and relaxed, kind of domed over.
Can be large.
Owls are creepy.
Yep.
Owls are creepy.
They are. Well, it looked like, and I don't know if I'm saying this right. So the sheriff, of course, everyone's weighing in on what they felt like this could be, and a lot of people are, like in that week time span or whatever. But the sheriff said he felt like it could be a shite poke. Poke, is that right? Shite. I wrote this down. It was SHITEPOKE. Shite poke.
Okay.
And I didn't even know. I don't know if you're from West Virginia. I'll have to I'm like, let me look at that real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it really Google.
Speaking of, do you have any of the other encounters listed out by chance?
So I did it seemed like collectively just talking about it, but the Marcella Bennett encounter.
Yes.
If we want to talk about that next, but
yeah, and there's quite a few. There's one, so you have the original one on the 12th, you have the 15th one, which is the car chase, where just to quickly summarize that one again to kind of add a little more details, they saw it in the tree. It leapt out of the tree and took off after them. They got up to 100 mile an hour trying to speed away from it down these old roads, and it kept up without flapping. That's the other thing that a lot of people say. It almost behaves as a helicopter where it hovers up and then launches, but it doesn't flap. There is no flapping. There is no like fluid movement from it. It's almost like it just kind of defies gravity as it comes after them.
That's crazy.
Then you have the November 16th encounter, which was Marcella Bennett, where she was out in the TNT area and she saw the creature from behind a parked car. And basically she went into a state of shock after that.
It said that she was I tried to find an article on this instance. Oh, and I will say real fast. I guess the shite poke was maybe like a another word for this, but it sounds like a green heron. A heron.
Yeah, I looked at the dictionary and it said any of a number of birds of the heron family.
Okay, so I guess it's like a collective.
A large bird.
So, that's interesting. But when I was looking at the Marcella, it mentioned that she was holding her baby Tina and that she dropped the baby, but then it never came back. Or the story never came back. Or I couldn't find if anything bad happened to Tina, because Tina was little, like a baby, like a 2-3 month old baby, I believe.
I feel like I remember hearing that. when I went back over my notes and stuff, I don't recall like where I actually wrote that down or researched that specific piece, but I feel like I do remember hearing someone say about that. I don't remember if that was factual or if that was just something they like kind of like exaggerated with the story over time.
Yeah, because I couldn't find a definitive even article where she was interviewed or whatever, as far as like back then,
Yes.
So it looked like she lived until 2009. That was interesting. That was very cool. So she lived a long time. But anyway, it never said what happened to Tina or if, allegedly, but yes.
So on November 24th, this was a pretty brief encounter, but 4 people driving over Route 62 saw a large creature flying over the road, keeping pace with their car before veering off. And then December 15th was when Connie Carpenter saw the creature. And does that name ring a bell at all?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you want to go there or do you want to wait for that one?
You can go there. Yes, you go.
Okay. So Connie Carpenter was out on Mason County Golf Course, and she saw this large creature with these very intense eyes that were so bright it actually left her with something called photokeratosis, which is imagine like sunburn on the eyes, or almost what someone would call like a distant radiant burn, like a radiation burn on her eyes. So she actually had to go get medical treatment for this because whatever it was so intense it caused her to have damage to her eyes.
Isn't that interesting? So as far as like from what I could read after this incident, or like after the initial incidents that came out, there were hundreds of reports that came forward, like people coming forward.
Yes, there was a bunch. The ones we've talked about are the kind of the main ones that everyone have good citable sources for, but there have been numerous come out about it in that time frame, and then since then. Though I will say the sightings really did kind of taper off pretty dramatically. And we'll get into this later, but there's been sightings elsewhere, and there's a whole lot of other kind of lore behind the Mothman as showing up in other areas. But
that's
during that time frame, there was a whole lot of stuff going on. Not to mention West Virginia in general, and Point Pleasant being one of the main ones at that time, had a ton of other weird stuff going on too, outside of just, I mean, we talked briefly about the Flatwoods Monster. There was tons of UFO sightings. There was tons of Men in Black sightings.
Yeah,
there were people being harassed by people in like completely preserved, old vehicles that looked like they, came out of a time capsule. Some people were caught saying there were people that talked without opening their mouth and like beamed thoughts into people's minds. There was the whole thing with the smiling man, which Indrid Cold. And that whole scenario, and all this is going on at the same time as the Mothman, which is why, if you've heard of the book The Mothman Prophecies, John Keel was in town when all this was going on investigating, because there was just so many things that it was pretty much undeniable something weird was going on.
Yes. And so do you remember, like, did his book come out in 70, I believe, like 1970, the Mothman Prophecies? So it looked like, because he was really into UFOs himself.
Yes.
But I did think it was interesting because it seems like a lot of people felt like there was definitely something going on. But yeah, it was interesting to me because even he was like, he felt like it was a little bit of a mass hysteria going on, especially because when did the UFO sightings start after the Mothman? Could you tell? Like time frame wise, was it pretty close? Or
it was similar. So some of them were actually before, and then it kind of carried over into the 70s because his book came out in 75, which is a culmination of all of the different things.
Okay.
And so I want to say the peak of the UFO hysteria actually kind of trickled off after that, which I want to try to remember. Let me see if I have it right here.
But I don't think that was just West Virginia. I think that was like all over the nation. Like people were seeing strange things.
There was a bunch of UFO stuff going on across everything.
Yeah, it seems like we had a lot, even, here in Arkansas, like UFO sightings. But like the whole Men in Black, that kind of confused me. Did they feel like this was related to the UFOs or related? Because we'll kind of talk about this TNT such, but I mean, obviously there was a government stuff going on in Point Pleasant at that time, but I didn't know if anything ever came out about like CIA people or anything being around the area, or if they were maybe just checking it out because of all of the activity going on, or I don't know. I never saw anything
So,
definitive about
the
that.
about the Men in Black specifically. Basically, after all of this happened, so after the big tragedy that we're going to build up to here,
Yeah.
the kind of during that time and then into some of the UFO panic. Basically, what was happening is these people who had, as their exact quotes, perfectly olive skin, wearing cheap, thin black suits in the dead of winter, who moved stiffly like they were puppets, is kind of the quotes.
Oh, weird.
And they pulled up into town and they began asking everyone, like they would walk into random gas stations and convenience stores or at diners, and they would begin questioning people. But they weren't asking about the monster or the events. They were asking about families, about like daily schedules, like what do you do from day to day, like that kind of stuff. Like what'd you have for dinner last night? Like these very strange questions that like humans don't ask other humans kind of questions, you know?
Just strangers.
And so that was a big kind of weirdness of it.
Yeah.
Then there was also so Connie Carpenter, after she reported her sighting, she reported that a man in a black car allegedly tried to abduct her. And then the next day she found a note slipped under her door that read, be careful, girl. I can get you yet."
Oh, creepy.
So
It's not ominous.
Yeah.
yeah. So that was a whole thing. And then of course you have the Woodrow Derenberger stuff with Indrid Cold, which was another man dressed in a black suit who around the same time he came across in a hovercraft that was in like a long cigar-shaped hovercraft and blocked the road, blocked traffic both ways, stepped out, walked over, and like stood at Derenberger's window grinning at him like this huge smile.
Like
so
Cheshire cat
yes,
style.
so Derenberger rode down the window and basically the man says like, I come in a place not unlike yours. My name is Indrid Cold. You'll see me in time, kind of thing. But he said this all telepathically, as if it was being beamed into his head like a television set, is how, or like a radio he described. And then he went off. And then there's a whole other thing with that we can talk on, because I think Derenberger was a bit of an eclectic individual. So I don't know if something actually happened to him or if he had a really good imagination, but he gets really weird after that.
Yeah,
really weird after that.
I was about to say, like, just for fun, I even told you this, that I was gonna rewatch the Mothman Prophecy movie.
Yes. Did you?
I did. Me and Daryl, I put it on 2002. I was like, oh, it's Richard Gere. It was weird. Laura Linney, I forgot Laura Linney was in it, and Deborah Messing. It had a lot of people in it.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Will Patton. I like him. He was in like Remember the Titans. You remember? Anyway, so it was interesting, like the Ingrid Colt thing combining with the Mothman thing in that movie, and then of course, and we'll talk about the bridge situation actually in Point Pleasant, but like it was interesting, and I'm guessing they loosely based the movie, of course, on the book. But what do you think about that crossing of the two things? I mean, what do you think about that? The crossing.
Well, first of all, I have to say that the movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that movie so much. I thought they did a really fun job of pulling in different pieces of the lore, but also making it, fun and actually more of a Hollywood style film.
I remember, before you go into this, I remember whenever we first started dating, like, you know how you're like asking different questions, what's your favorite this, what's your favorite that, getting to know each other. I was like, what's your favorite movie? And he was like, the Mothman Prophecies. I was like, what the heck is that?
You're like, I was a baby when that. No.
Fun story. Moths are actually my favorite animal too. So just saying.
What?
Unrelated, but yeah, I love moths. Not butterflies, moths.
That is so interesting. Well,
and then we watched the movie.
Well, one of my favorite movies, of course, is Silence of the Lambs. So
okay,
yeah, that's on a different situation, but
similar, but not.
Yeah.
And I will say the movie. Go ahead.
Your spirit. I'm going to say your spirit animal is the moth.
Yes, exactly.
A creepy one. I'm sorry, real fast. I had a creepy moth situation. I think it was this past summer in my garage.
Was it big and black and creepy?
it was Silence of the Lambs looking like,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
huge.
It's a witch moth, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
We get them in Arkansas. They're
The
like
name.
they're like the size of a baseball. They're black with like silver tipped wings, and they look like a bat. Honestly, they're huge.
Yeah. I will say, if one comes back in, I'm gonna be like, here, come to me for Cody.
Yes.
I will.
They're really cool. I love them. I love witch moths. I've had one come into a garage.
Oh.
It was actually your parents' house. We had one fly into their garage, and they're like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's a witch moth. Don't hurt it." I'm like, let me see it.
I didn't swat it or anything, and we tried it. We just got it out, but I'm like, oh. I was like, Daryl, get this away from me. I don't.
Yeah.
They're big.
So sorry.
And you can hear them. They're so big you can hear them flapping.
Yeah, I don't want to hear anything flapping. Birds. I know some people get freaked out by birds, and then especially if they've seen the Hitchcock.
I know people can't.
Yeah.
I know people can't see this, but you can. So was it that?
Blurry.
It's a little blurry, but yeah, I mean, it's a bit. It was big. It had. I want to say it had white and yellow, and it had a lot going on. Like I was like, this literally is from like a nightmare. Like it. I mean, it was pretty though. I mean, it was pretty, but it was nightmarish. But yeah, sorry. So I interrupted that. But
what were you gonna say?
No, that was it. Like you were going to talk about the injured cold and the Mothman. And,
I got distracted.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Well, I was going to say the movie did a good job of pulling in different elements like the static phone calls. That's another thing we didn't talk about. During this whole time, people were receiving these strange phone calls that they described as like a radio static sound or almost like a record sped up so fast you couldn't understand what was being said. It was like this gibberish almost. And that's terrifying. I get really weirded out when I get robocalls trying to like tell me my I need new insurance for something or my car's extended warranty, and that freaks me out enough. Like, how'd you get my number? Anyway, but like I couldn't imagine just picking up the call and just hearing this weird hyper sped up, kind of sound.
Oh, that's creepy.
I can't see a tube of chapstick and not think of the Mothman now after seeing that movie. Like I just anyway, so there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on. But as far as the bleed over between the two, I don't find them related as much as I just think West Virginia is one of the weirdest places ever, and there's some strange stuff. I don't think they're the same being. Yeah. I think I have a hard time believing in Indrid Cold. If you would like, I can humor you just slightly on that story, and you'll kind of understand. Okay, so Woodrow Derenberger was correct me if I'm wrong here, he was a door-to-door vacuum cleaner salesman.
Oh.
So that was his job, is going door-to-door trying to sell Hoover vacuums. I believe it was Hoover. I could be making that up, but it was probably Hoover. Just give it
probably Hoover. Yeah.
It wasn't Dyson, let me tell you. It wasn't a German vacuum then. So it was Hoover.
Not then.
Not then. And like I said, he's pulling along. This thing pulls up, kind of blocks the road. He slows down. He comes out and talks to him. He said, "I'll see you in time." Over time, this Indrid Cold fellow began visiting Woodrow Derenberger on the regular. And they would have these long conversations on his porch where he would tell him different things about society and how his people were there to just ensure humans were doing okay. And like, they were literally just there as peacekeepers and not to interfere, but just to check in on humans and make sure everything was going on. They've seen enough tragedy and they've learned how to overcome diverse differences and live together in harmony is basically what it started going to. So it kind of went from like weird alien encounter to like this dude's just like, intergalactic National Guard. And he's here just kind of hanging out, Yeah. But all of this is done telepathically. So we learned that Indrid Cold is from a place called Lanulos, which is his planet. That is his home planet.
Okay.
And then it goes further to where over time, there's actually a book called Greetings. I think it's called Greetings from Lanulos. I may have the name wrong. Anyway, he wrote a whole book on this after his conference where he started talking about this.
Oh, okay.
So Indrid started taking him home with him to Lanulos.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he met his wife, which I really want to look up his wife's name. It's this dude. It starts getting weird. Okay,
you would talk about like the Men in Black situation, and that reminds me of. Have you ever seen the show Fringe? It's like a modern day X-Files.
I don't.
But there's like Men in Black there, and like the way like he described it earlier of the people here, like literally look like that in the show, and there's like different weird like time travel stuff. So it's all connected somehow.
Yeah. Well, okay. Were these visits to his planet going on in his mind, or Like
I
mind travel or real physical travel? Did it say how they got there?
Yeah, I actually read the book. It's been a minute back, but if I recall, he talked about boarding his ship and like getting on his ship and traveling with him to
Oh,
these
wow.
places. At first, it was more of a mind thing, but then he actually would go on his ship because at first that's how it started. Is he wanted to tour his ship, so he went and he remembered like seeing all the different instrument clusters and learning how things worked, and like Indrid explaining to him how intergalactic travel happened and how they could get from point A to point B so fast. And
Didn't he have like a wife and kids on his planet?
yeah, he went home and met Indrid's wife and kids, and I cannot remember her name. I'd have to read the book because it's not readily available on the internet. It was a very strange name. It's just the whole thing started getting weirder, and then they started going to neighboring planets and learning how like humanity was one of the last ones that had arguments and like disagreements, and it kind of become more of a like what I would imagine to be more of like a like hippie free love kind of experience where it's like everyone gets along and like there's no drama and like this is what you need to do, and it kind of became a bit of a platform for Darren Berger to kind of preach these messages of positivity, which I guess isn't bad, but at the same
I just
time,
don't think that's the same thing as Mothman, though.
Yeah.
No, it got very weird. I think he capitalized on the situation.
On the situation. So kind of like, I don't know, piggybacking on this. That's in a weird way because I will say it never really made sense to me. Like in the movie, I'm like, this is like a weird segue. I mean, the movie was so good, and of course the acting is so good, but that whole situation for me, like in my mind, didn't work. You know what I'm saying? Like that,
like telepathically, or
no, just
like how
the whole
led
story.
Yeah, I got what you're saying.
The connection, because I really like like the Mothman situation, but then even just the Men in Black and the the UFOs throws me a little bit because I feel like I like my unexplained to be compartmentalized in my head. Like if this is truly a cryptic or cryptid, you know what I'm saying? Like cryptozoology. Anyway, anyway.
I was able to find kind of the quick notes version of Lanulos.
Oh, okay.
So apparently it was Lanulos, yes, the planet of Indrid Cold, which is so funny because when you first read in most of the places you would read the encounter of Indrid Cold, it's really made out to be this extremely creepy, like grinning man terror kind of thing. Like alien comes down and like beams thoughts into his head and like super creepy. And then it goes like super like strange, I don't know, fiction novel real quick, So he's supposed to live in the galaxy of Genomedes, I think is how you would say that. So apparently Lanulos is a very lush jungle planet with vibrant colors and tropical climate. It's a utopia where there's no war and poverty, and they're also all nudists, by the way. For whatever reason, no clothes because they have no sense of shame or sin regarding their human body. They're supposed to live longer than us, around 125 to 175 years.
Okay.
Indrid's wife's name was Kimmy. He had 2 sons.
Kimmy.
And he often would go there doing very mundane things like having dinner with them or, which he actually said at one point that like he described mundane domestic scenes and activities like washing clothes, which is kind of ironic because
they don't wear clothes.
Yeah. So if the whole thing wasn't a big enough red flag for you, there it is. Anyway, so the original encounter though was November 2nd of 1966.
Okay.
So that's kind of when that whole thing started. So, I guess let's see.
So
before
the Mothman, like right before.
Like the week prior or like a week and a half prior to the Mothman.
But I will say some people say that the Mothman is like a harbinger of death. And
You're jumping ahead. Hold on.
No, but I'm saying like some people like think it's an angel, some people think it's an owl, and then some people think like there's debate on if Mothman is good or bad. Like, is it like good, forewarning you something, or is it like the cause of destruction? Like, there's so much confusion, and so I feel like it's already a hard story to follow, but then you couple in with all of the UFO, the military, Men in Black, Indrid Cold, like it, and all within the same time frame too. I feel like it's not. I feel like it's really easy to like start blending the stories and the encounters,
like it all just melting pot.
Yes.
Well, melting pot of unexplained West Virginia.
Yes, weirdness.
Yes.
Well, yeah, so much. Okay, so because we've been building and talking about it, so a year after these encounters and after the Mothman is now a thing in West Virginia, so they do have a tragedy. So we'll talk about it. And it looked like it was December, it was like a Friday, December 15th of 1967, so literally like a year and a month later. And this bridge, it's called the Silver Bridge, which from what I could see, it's right there in Point Pleasant. And you mentioned they had several bridges, but this bridge was like a steel bridge, and it was 40 years old, and it was kind of like a Friday. It's described it as a Friday evening, like high traffic time, like a traffic time. Now, this bridge, if I'm correct, was over the Ohio River. Was that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And so it sounds like without much of a warning, the bridge collapsed.
Correct.
And of course, it's high traffic. This is, steel, this is steel bridge, cars, tractor trailers, like a horrible, horrible tragedy, like on this Friday night. And feel free to jump in there with anything.
Oh, you're good. So yeah, Christmas season traffic. I mean, any road where you're coming and going into town. I can't speak for how this was in the 60s, but I know modern time I could definitely see how that would be a highly trafficked bridge, because most of the, I guess, more necessity type stores are on the Ohio side, not the West Virginia side. So West Virginia is more like the downtown, versus Ohio has, well, nowadays, like, it has your gas stations, your Walmarts, your shopping, all that kind of stuff. So I can only assume if that's how it is now, that there was some of that back then, right? Like people would be going to and from for work or holiday, or kind of like getting ready for shopping.
Well, yeah, because like even now with Point Pleasant, like it's really pretty area, but it's a lot of like ma and pa shops. Like there's not a Target like downtown area.
Not that there was a Target in the 60s.
Right. But like even now, like it still kind of has that like almost like vintage feel.
Well, and most of the people in West Virginia, in Point Pleasant, I believe typically work or come from Ohio. Like that's the side they kind of travel back and forth to. So
it was commuting,
Yes.
Like I kind of think like rush hour.
Rush hour, Little Rock, North Little Rock, kind of simple.
Yeah. And that was described kind of like, I guess, for that time and that period, like their rush hour situation. So like a lot of traffic like on the bridge at that time. And when it collapsed, I didn't read how many actual vehicles went in. I mean, the total number, it said, of, because it looked like weeks to actually, they were dredging the river. They brought in the Coast Guard, and what they called looked like the Bureau of Public Transportation was kind of the lead investigation on it or whatever. But I guess we have the Transportation Board now. I don't know. Is that right? The Department of Transportation. Anyway, but they brought them in, and of course they're having to get cranes and such. But it said 46 people died, but even as in a week, of course, they didn't even have all the bodies, and they still never found 2 of the people that were said to be on the bridge, just from the vehicles or whoever they did find. But 46, that's
a lot.
I mean, that's a lot. I mean, that was, I can't imagine for a town so small. That's that's devastating.
Everybody knew someone, everybody was impacted in town. It wasn't just, oh yeah, I heard about this tragedy. Like, that's so wild. It's like everyone had someone lose someone out of their family, or
right around
close to
the holiday season, like you were talking about too.
They have actually a very, very well done kind of mural and memorial there in town for that.
Oh wow, that is like, I can't imagine that happening. Of course, they did say, I mean, a lot of people after this happened, they attributed. A lot of people attributed it to the fact that it was a 40-year-old bridge. There were, I think the investigation came out with like 10 different things, wrong with the bridge as far as like, actual broken steels. I'm not a bridge person or an engineer, but
Yeah.
they were talking about that. But some of the people there, the tragedy was attributed to the Mothman, and it is interesting, or to me, that it did happen. So, like almost a year and a month after. What are your thoughts? Because I know that there were some sightings beforehand or whatever.
Supposedly there were sightings the days up to the collapse. If I recall, it's worth noting that those sightings were not mentioned until after the bridge collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
I think we may have talked about this a little bit on our last conversation together, but when there is a tragedy, it's kind of human nature to want to try to find an explanation for the unexplained.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it very well, in my opinion, the association with the Mothman to the bridge is more so just people trying to explain and trying to rationalize something.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if the Mothman instances are real and really are something else, I think that, in which we can talk about what we think the Mothman is, because that goes back to John Keel. But if, in my opinion, if that is real, I kind of lean more toward the like arbinger of demise, or arbinger of doom, or like something that is found around somewhere where there's about to be a tragedy, more so than I do of like something that caused something like that, because nowhere has the Mothman caused any harm other than the one incidence of like the radiant eye burn,
like
which yes,
but was that even intentional?
Right,
like, that was just a byproduct.
Yeah. So I don't think that the Mothman caused the bridge collapse. I think that negligence caused the bridge collapse.
Yes. And the 1960s of it all, maybe like, I don't know what they're, because now, of course, we have bridge inspections, but even now things happen. But
we have had holes in Lone Oak bridges that you can see the interstate below.
Or with the Memphis Bridge too.
The Memphis Bridge almost fell in not too long ago because it had huge pressure, fracture cracks and stuff. So we've learned.
We've learned. And unfortunately, it seems like, and I've read this over and over with different, tragic incidences like that. Unfortunately, policies are written in blood. Like this horrible thing happened, and of course, I'm sure it led to a much safer and better bridge, and a lot of change that kind of helped. But it was just, it's just such a devastating thing, which kind of leads me. So I'm going to go back a little bit and I'm going to ask you guys about this, okay? Because it seemed like the Point Pleasant area, even before Mothman, they felt cursed.
Yes.
They felt a curse, and they had of course this, and you mentioned, of course, how old this area is. Of course, it's, goodness, it's been there for a long time. You have settlers coming in a long time ago, but from what I could gather, they did back in the 1700s, they did have, of course, they're battling with the indigenous tribes there, and they did have a chief Cornstalk that it looks like they have a monument for him, but he was like part of the Shawnee tribe, and it kind of mentioned that he was just kind of almost like a delegate, or like he would negotiate. He was like a leader for that particular tribe in the Point Pleasant area, and he is negotiating with a Lord Dunmore that kind of has property. It's all about the land and the property, and of course, this is kind of the kickoff of like the war. This is like in the 1770s and such. So from what I could gather, the chief Cornstalk is in a battle, and he doesn't die in this battle in 1774, but they do have a battle. Many of his people are killed. Many of the white settlers are killed there. They're fighting about different things. And they do get into a treaty, but then 3 years later, like they kind of trick him and he comes into their fort in around 1777 or 78. I saw two different dates there, but they actually murder him and his son. So the settlers end up tricking him, and it kind of went back to, it wasn't even about the war, and it wasn't even about like the land at that point, because they were like in a treaty situation by then, but it was a past vendetta of that some of these people were feeling. And so they murdered him pretty viciously. And then at that point, he allegedly curses the town.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Is that what you're?
Yeah, I want to say they murdered his. It was in 77, is what I remember. Mm-hmm. It could be 78. Who knows? But,
yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's 77, and then some other. You know how that goes. Some other dates popped up.
Yeah. I think they murdered his son, and in the process of like that whole thing, he like yells out that he cursed the land for 100 years before they murder him. Like, right, it's like his dying wish, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of the kind of attributing to the bridge collapse, because that was 67 and it was 1777. Well, I guess that would be over 100 years, but still, I don't know. Basically, that's kind of the thing of like the tail end of the curse. Like coming to fruition.
Yes, because some people were like 200-year curse or whatever it was, like to culminate the bridge with the curse and the.
But I don't think I think it was originally just 100 years. I think that kind of cropped up just because it's like, oh look,
the bridge
67, 77. Those sound kind of close. It must have been 200 years, like
to encompass that.
Yes.
Any area where there's murder or deceit or tragedy, whether it's a bridge collapse or war, anything like that, I feel like I don't know if it's necessarily like a legitimate curse, but there is like that energy, there is that like history that is forever ingrained in that area. And so I think anything weird or terrible, unfortunate that happens over time just builds to the lore, the history of the area. And so it just kind of builds on that. And then like people, like I said earlier, like I don't know if like Point Pleasant, like because of the Mothman, that's why it feels weird. But I think just with the history and the different things that have happened, like people somewhat project that of like, oh, I know there's dark history here. And so like you automatically feel that presence. But I feel like that's just, there's so many different areas, not just in Point Pleasant or West Virginia, but like throughout the US where that happens, because I think something similar happened in Colorado, like around the gold rush, I believe. And there was like different treaties and different things like that happened as well. So I feel like anywhere that there's like history like that, there's going to be that presence.
Yeah, just that like ominous, something over, like, because it was bad situation, like not just with the, even before that, but just a lot of bad blood going on in that area. So it was like whenever something, because they mentioned even like fires, like of course this town is old. It had fires, it had different catastrophes, flooding, fires or whatever, but it was always contributed to at first Chief Cornstalk's curse, but then it shifted to, and like you talked about, like pushing blame somewhere, like something has to be at blame, like then the Mothman, happened. So it was like, it's one or the other. It's the curse or the Mothman.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting, like just, and something sad, but something also interesting about the area that, And then another thing, so that could contribute to this whole thing. So, we talked about the TNT situation. So obviously the townspeople called it TNT. And from what I could gather, in World War II, they needed rural places in America that could house, they were making bombs, they were making shelters. I did an episode on the Titan II, missile, and that was in the 60s or whatever. But so in the 40s, in this area, the government came in and built these, and they called them igloos. So they were building these, and they were housing the TNT, from what I understood. Is that correct? Like the dynamite?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
raw materials as well as like actually created dynamite. From local manufacturing. Because once again, big coal mining town kind of turned manufacturing for military weapons and things, and refining and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they're these large, very large underground, and like they literally look like an igloo. It's a dome. It is a perfect dome.
And it's cold in there too.
Freezing.
Yeah.
And they get them underground. Yeah, we've been to them.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
And it's very weird. So you walk down this area. It's a very flat area. Once again, this whole being kind of in the Ohio River Valley, like it's the only flat area in West Virginia, I think. It's a long stretch. Think like Louisiana Bayou.
Yeah, it's
like,
kind of swampy.
Very swampy.
Oh.
You have like all this water to your left, and these along the right, you have this long straight road, almost like looks like an old train road. It's not, but I mean, just kind of imagine like an old cut through the woods, right? And then on each side, ever so often, there's just kind of this cutout doorway with like just a wall. Actually, this is kind of pigeonholing to local areas, but if you've ever been to Lake Williston Park in Maumelle,
yes.
Yeah, so they have all those like concrete bunkers in the hill with just the concrete door in the front. They look very much like that with just the door off. So it's just buried underground, and it's just an underground storage. So from the air, it would not show up from like any kind of like overhead surveillance. But as you look at them in the ground, they're just like a concrete, and you walk in, and it is a perfect dome with the most wild reverb you'll ever hear. So,
and unfortunately, there's like graffiti everywhere.
Oh yeah, they're basically just art exhibits.
I was going to ask you about the graffiti because I did see a video. Did you guys do a tour or did you go on your own?
On our own. Yeah,
okay.
We filmed it. Yeah.
Spooky. No.
Yeah, I saw one of the.
I saw one of
the ones that we.
You go first.
Yeah.
Oh no. I was just seeing that they do like I don't know if they still do or whenever you guys went, but they were doing like tours of the town and they would take you to the igloos or whatever. So, and there was graffiti everywhere. So
yes,
inside.
Yeah, one of the ones that we walked in, he was like, "There's like you walk in the ground, it's like an entire like pentagram
right in the middle."
Yeah, right in the middle, and that's like this is very weird. Yeah, but what's even weirder about that? A couple of years ago, I was watching this like documentary, and it was like a very long documentary, like multi-episode documentary, and it went one direction, and by the end of it, like
what documentary are you talking about?
I can't remember. Hellier? It was Hellier. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, okay. Hellier, Kentucky. It was like originally like the was that Kentucky Goblins or whatever. Yes. Yeah, but because like because of Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, like it just like every episode just like kept getting weirder and weirder and weirder. And then towards I don't even know if I finished it, but towards the end of the documentary, they're sitting like in the TNT bunkers, and they have like all of their like was it ghost what's the thing where you're like blindfolded and then you have like noise canceling earphones and there's like their radio and they like start hearing like messages and they're like thinking that they're contacting Mothman and everything. It was a very bizarre, it's very interesting. But it was very bizarre. But they were talking about how like they were getting these different messages and like every episode just like kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. And like there was a lot of like injured cold and like Mothman and weird stuff. But I can visually remember them sitting in the TNT bunkers talking about how cold it was, which it is cold.
It's cold.
Was talking about how cold it was and like the weird messages they were getting and like the eerie feeling. And it was at night. We didn't go at night. But I can only imagine that being there at night would be scarier.
Yeah.
But it was very wild.
Yeah. Especially now since, I mean, it kind of sounded like they came in and did this, of course, for the war purposes. And then from what I could see, the government just kind of gave it back to the state, the area as a park. And it's called, in the area, McClinton Park. Is that correct? McClinton.
Yes.
And so it looks like
State Wildlife Preserve, I think.
Yes. And it looked like they basically just left the bunker. So they're all over. Like when you went, they were just grown over, right? Like outside, like was just like as
it's
is.
Pretty much just kind of a back corner of this area, which I will say kind of gets into the theory of maybe what the Mothman is, because a lot of these bunkers were left sealed off. So there's the ones you can get to on the road. There's actually more, from my understanding, if you were to kayak or like take a boat out into the swamp, there's more of them all out through the area. Like there's the ones that people get to all the time. Then there's a lot of them that are just kind of out through the swamps and everything. And Yeah, and some of them were never emptied. They were just forgot about. And so over time, all of these chemicals began to seep into the water. And it is actually very well documented to find strange growth defects on animals in the area. There have been numerous multi-headed snakes and like turtles without shells and just all these strange animals that have genetic mutations because of the chemicals that have leached into the water. Strange fish that do weird things. So there's a large theory that the Mothman is some kind of bird that has, or creature, that has crawled up out of this like chemical swamp, basically.
Yes. Kind of like, because they didn't, of course, in the 60s, they wouldn't have thought about any of that. But as they kind of got into the 80s, they did have, the EPA come in, and evidently since the 80s, they've been constantly cleaning up. And I don't know where they're at with trying to clean up. There's still, they say still, evidence of chemicals or byproducts. I guess it stays in that area for so long, gets into like the water table and the soil and such. But yes, I mean, they had all those chemicals. So yeah, what do you think about that? Because it seemed like a lot of people did think that, one, the Mothman could have been some sort of prehistoric or so-called extinct animal, or maybe just an animal that was, like you said, like mutated animal. I don't know.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning that, of course, let's go ahead and get the common theories out of the way. Owl or great hair, great.
Oh, that shite poke.
Yeah, what is the one bird? Not a great blue hair.
There was another mention of a crane.
Sandhill crane.
Yes.
A
crane.
Sandhill cranes. I could see how someone would mistake a sandhill crane for something like this, because sandhill cranes have large red patches on both sides of their head. Like right where their eye is, they're a white bird with a large red patch. They have a 7-foot wingspan. They're really big birds.
That's big.
That said, when you're scared, like, you could definitely
at night.
Yeah. The thing is, and also, cranes and herons make some of the weirdest calls you've ever heard. Like, they're just terrifying birds. Of course, every time we go hiking or walking around any of the local lakes or anything, there's always a great blue heron chilling out, And I like, they see you and they jump up and they scream and take off flying. And they sound like a pterodactyl, like terrifying. You hear one of those in the middle of the night in the woods and you're like, you're going home, It's like, nope, I'm out. So I think that some of the sightings could be attributed to that. Or, owls are pretty creepy. We've talked about that over and over again. Like, owls are creepy at night,
Yeah.
I've seen owls. I knew they were owls and they still creep me out. So,
yeah.
But that said, it could be, there very well could be a genetic mutation of a sandhill crane, it could be anything like that. I don't typically buy into the prehistoric thing, wandering through the woods as much. There is a theory that I love to entertain the most that we can get to after we talk about this.
Okay.
That I have just found myself just, I think I believe it the most just because I enjoy it more than there's any factual basis to it. But I think the possibility of something out there that has some kind of genetic mutation to it is pretty high.
Yeah.
Mostly because there's multiple instances of other things with genetic mutations in the area already. So why wouldn't it kind of track that there's something else out there? Similar?
With all of that went on in their land and close to water supply. And yes, people were out there, they would fish, and of course, in the 60s and such. It's just interesting. What all contamination went on. So
yeah.
Well, with that, could it just be a hallucination? Did people actually see anything at all?
And it's just chemical hallucination.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Especially because the 60s and 70s too, people.
We don't have to go there.
Well, we're okay. So those four kiddos. I'm not saying anything, but they're early 20s. They're out driving on a Wednesday morning. Like, what?
Yeah.
Well, and let's be honest, rural backwoods areas draw in certain types of usages,
Yeah.
I mean, like it happens here, it happens there,
Was it was it somewhat chemical from some
Right. Right.
It's a combination of the forever chemicals they're drinking combined with the substances they were on. It created some weird.
But you just never know though.
Yeah, you don't. Yes.
But my favorite theory by
Uh-huh.
far is John Keel's, which is the author of the Mothman Prophecies. And he has a theory on aliens encrypted encounters where instead of being an extraterrestrial, which is something beyond Earth, it is an ultra terrestrial.
Okay.
And ultra terrestrials are something outside of our dimension. So when you think of dimensions, which we have scientific basis to believe there are other dimensions other than ours, they're technically theories, but they are mathematical. So they exist in math. So therefore should possibly exist, unless we have our math wrong, in quantum physics. So if you are religious, then that kind of plays into that idea. We kind of believe that even if we don't call it interdimensionalism, like those of us who are religious kind of already believe that. Yeah. So, and maybe that's kind of pulling into the whole angel philosophy and all that too, an Arbinger of Doom, which, did we mention real quick, or were you going to go to the place where Mothman was seen at Chernobyl, 9/11, and all those other tragedies?
Okay, no, because I didn't even,
So right before, like 3 days before Chernobyl, Mothman, or what they called the Chernobyl Batman or something like that, was seen flying around. In Japan, when the nuclear reactor melted, there was a sighting 3 days prior of something large and humanoid flying around the nuclear reactor. Supposedly, and I can't find a whole lot to back this up, there was a Mothman type being seen around the Twin Towers before 9/11, though I think that's more of just a projection of people's opinions on that one.
Yeah.
It's not as documented as the other two. And then there's also been a Mothman type thing seen in Chicago, though I don't actually know what tragedy to tie that to, because it was in 2018, and my brain goes Chicago fire, but that was way previous compared to where we're at. So anyway, but so ultra terrestrialism is something that comes from another dimension. So we're three-dimensional beings. We see what is it like width, depth, and height, right? That is the dimensions in which we operate on. So if you think, the best way I know how to describe this is 2 dimensions. If you have a piece of paper, right, and you draw a stick figure on it, it can see left and right, but it cannot see depth, right? It can see left, right, it can see up, down, but it cannot see depth. So if you are standing above it looking at it, this imaginary thing can't see you because you are outside of its plane of existence over here. But if we turn the paper on its edge and look at it, it would see a sliver of you because it can see you, but only the bit that's on its plane. So you would look as if right here, just like a sliver of this long-elated eye creature. I'm holding the paper up to my eyes for those, I guess this isn't video. So if the paper was like eye level, it would see just these 2 eyes staring at it. Or if it was like, just depending on where it is, if it was chest level, it would see just your shoulders. So you only get to see what we're capable of seeing on our dimension. So if there's a 4th dimension or something beyond our plane, we would only see it when it passes through our dimension, across one of the dimensions we can see. So the theory of ultra-terrestrialism is there are beings on a 4th dimension, things like what we would call aliens or UFOs, maybe. Like if you think of like a disc-shaped craft, who knows what it actually looks like? We're only catching a glimpse of it passing over. The Mothman, similar to how it doesn't flap, it doesn't move. Bigfoot, how these things kind of pop in and out of existence, are actually things on another plane that we can't see until it kind of crosses over one of our planes of existence. I love that theory, and I have nothing to back it up at all, but it's a fun theory, and I'm like, yes, that's it. That's the truth right there.
But speaking of Men in Black, that all of what you just said reminds me of that scene with like the marble at the end of the movie.
I love that.
Yeah, like
Make like 3, right?
Yeah.
Where he's like, no, Jay, like we're not, like you think this marble is something, and then he like opens the locker, and they're just like a little piece of locker.
That's what this reminds me.
Yeah, and another alien planet. Yeah.
That is a very deep thought.
Yes.
And this is what people do whenever,
Very interesting. So I mean, I don't know. I like to think that there was definitely, obviously, something that these people were seeing, and maybe not all 100 sightings. I do think that, and even John Keel, I think he mentioned mass hysteria or people kind of jumping on a bandwagon type situation. But I feel like there must have been something, especially, like what it was, of course we don't know, but it is interesting that there was definitely something there going on.
Large winged humanoids are nothing specific to West Virginia. So I do absolutely believe there could be something to that, because if you think about Montana and a lot of the Native American beliefs in Thunderbirds, when you look at like Texas, there have been sightings of giant pterodactyl type creatures flying over and attacking people. There's documented like accounts of literally kids getting attacked by these things in Texas. You have, of course, Mothman sightings and all these tragedies and everything. So I think there could be something out there, whether those are all connected or different.
Yeah. And even to me, like I dove into the Jersey Devil, like it kind of, there's things that are similar in just the large, the wing, different but similar situation. So it's definitely interesting. I don't know. It's food for thought for me. But I definitely want to go to Point Pleasant. Like
you have to.
It is. I'm like, I have to. There's a few places I want to go that are now on my list from, research or whatever. So I'm like, oh, Point Pleasant.
We should all go to the Mothman Festival, because we have never been to the actual festival.
Oh, and so when do they do the festival? Do you know?
It's like late summer, early fall, because when we went last time, it was like the end of September, and we were literally a week, like they had it, and then we were there a week later. So I think it's like
September 19th and 20th.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Of this
so
year.
right before fall. Yeah.
That's so interesting. And I bet it's beautiful there. And I do want to talk, like, obviously the Mothman at first was something extremely scary. People were absolutely horrified, terrified, scary. And then, of course, blaming the Silver Bridge incident. But I do think it's so interesting, of course, once the movie came out in 2002, and then afterwards they, like you said, they have the Mothman Museum, they have the, the Mothman, what is it? What do they call it? Yes, the statue that came about. And some reason someone calls I saw something on the internet. This is terrible. It's the Mothman statue, but some people call it the shiny hiney. I don't know.
Oh gosh. It's a trend. You have to take a picture with the Mothman's butt, okay?
Okay. Tell me.
It's very awkward, but people will literally like stick pennies
in his butt cheeks.
Yes, I did see.
He has very nice butt cheeks. Okay, whoever carved this thing, they really gave him just a huge
focus on that.
He's very fit. I'll give you that.
People literally go there just to take a picture with the statue of his butt.
Oh,
think of it like rubbing Buddha's belly. You have to take a picture with Mothman's
butt side,
which we have done.
Yes,
guilty.
It is a really cool statue.
It is a very nice statue. Yeah, very well done.
And what is it made out of again? Do you guys know?
Metal of some kind.
I don't know.
Copper,
it's
maybe?
like silver, I think.
It's some kind of metal. I don't know exactly.
And I think it has like red eyes.
It does have the red eyes.
Oh,
it's very ominous looking. It doesn't look anything like the Mothman sightings at all. It's a really cool statue.
And the museum.
It's right next to the museum.
Going to.
Oh, cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah, I definitely want all of that, and then the festival. And I did see, and I don't know if they still do this. They have like the Miss Mothman pageant, or I don't know if they call it a competition now. But I did watch something, but it was from like I want to say it was 2012. So I don't know if they still do this. But I was like,
I'm not sure.
They had a Miss Mothman dance.
That's fantastic.
I will say, I think it was Miss America. I don't know what year, but somebody. So I guess Miss West Virginia had a Flatwoods Monster inspired dress for her gown.
Wow.
But I don't remember what year it was recent, but I don't remember when. But I thought that was pretty cool.
That is really cool. I love how I do love how they realize, and I saw like them people of the town comment how the Mothman, just saved them. They say it saved their town. Of course, it brings in revenue, brings in people. They've embraced the Mothman now. So I do think that's cool when a town embraces that lore and makes it like now it's a good thing, and it turned it into like something fun and special to their town, and people were come from all over the world to see it. So it's really interesting. So cool. I love that. And the murals, do they have murals and such?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they have a big like painted mural. I think it's like right next to their like local movie theater or theater. I don't remember exactly, but they have that. They have like plaques talking about the bridge collapse and everything. And it's like very beautifully done. Like the Mothman statue is silly, but everything else, like it is very respectful of like the people and what happened there.
Oh, cool.
Well, even the statue is in a way respectful because it's kind of like it really is kind of the local
honors
point.
history.
I mean, you can go there at any time and people are taking pictures with it and coming into that town. Like it really revitalized the town that was kind of, like that's like the attraction.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Whenever we were there in 2019, we had got there late. So we were literally just passing through. Like we wanted to stop off there, but we weren't staying there or anything. Yeah. And the first year that we got there, it was like an hour or two after the museum had closed. So we got there really late. Yeah. But we were like, okay, well, we're here. We have to take a picture of the statue. And they had like a little like Christmas tree, like village around the statue. And so they're always doing something like no matter what time of year, like they always have something going on in a little like district square.
And there were people taking pictures there while we were there.
That's
at 9 p.m. So
so it is a big to do all year.
Yeah. Well, the festival draws in, I want to say they said like 30,000 people.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing, especially, considering 4,500 people or so in this town. So that's huge. That is definitely huge. So awesome. Yeah. Well, can you guys think of anything that we've forgotten or I think
we've hit on pretty much all oh, my camera went away. Hey, look at that, my camera died. Are we still here?
Yes, you're still here. Okay, good. Okay. Well, I'll do a closeout if you guys are okay.
Yeah.
It feels weird that I can't see you. I'm like, you're there. You're it's like, ooh, no, sorry. we're in the igloo. There you are.
At a different angle.
Yeah. Oh,
my terrible webcam now from my laptop. So sorry, it looks terrible. But
oh, no. I love it. Well, I greatly appreciate you guys taking the time and talking to me about the Mothman. And Cody is literally wearing his Point Pleasant, West Virginia Mothman shirt. It's awesome. So we're definitely going to visit there. So that would be so awesome. But thank you guys. This was really interesting, and I learned a lot. So a lot of things that I didn't know.
Well, we always appreciate getting to come and talk cryptids and any excuse just to, hang out with you. So
yeah, we will do this again for sure. And a little plug. So we, like the two of us, we're teaming up and we are planning a live show. So stay tuned, guys. In 2026, we will definitely have a live show. Yes. And thank you guys for listening and love ya.